A Woman's Confession-Sentimental Schizophrenia. Prologue. I don't know exactly when I started to lose myself. Maybe one quiet night, while I was washing dishes and listening to the news in the background, or maybe the morning I looked in the mirror and realized I was just smiling out of habit. Maybe it was earlier than that. Maybe I lost myself since childhood, when I learned that I had to be good, to keep my knees together and my eyes down. I was a wife, a decent woman, a mother, housewife. Always careful not to be too much, too desirous, too alive, too sincere. But inside me, there has always been a hunger. Not one for food, not one for things, but a hunger for touch, for looks that burn, for moments that break time in two, a hunger to be seen, touched, desired without shame. I lived my life divided between what I should and what I feel, between the vows spoken at the altar and the body that demanded more than what it received. Not because I was not loved, but because that love did not know how to speak the language of my skin. This is not a story with heroes or heroines. It is not a justification, nor a tearful drama. It is, simply, a confession, a woman, a double life, a thirst, a search. The truth told in a whisper, in bed, in the mirror, in letters that were never sent. Maybe you will find yourself. Maybe you will rebel, or maybe you will close the book and you will wonder if you have the courage to tell the truth. I tell it now. Without a mask. Without pity. This is my confession. And I write it not because I have to, but because there is nothing else left to do. Chapter 1. Hunger. Since I was little, I knew that something lived in my body that I couldn't explain, a warm tension, a shiver in my flesh, an anxiety that crept into my thoughts without me being able to control it. It wasn't pain, but it wasn't peace either. It was a need, hunger. Not a hunger for food, not for sweets, not for toys. It was a hunger for touch. For presence.Of closeness. Ever since the age when other little girls were drawing butterflies and prom dresses, I dreamed of fingers walking on my back, lips that pressed against my shoulders, a voice that spoke my name slowly, in a whisper, like a prayer murmured between two breaths. But I quickly learned to hide. Because the world doesn't love girls who feel too much. In school, in my family, in my circle of friends, I was taught that a girl must be good. This word was spoken to me severely dozens of times. A good girl doesn't touch herself. A good girl doesn't caress her neck in the silence of the night. A good girl doesn't feel shameful things. So I learned to smile beautifully, to keep my knees together, to wear longer skirts and lower gazes. But in me, the fire didn't burn. Extinguished.It gathered in my chest, between my hips, in my dreams. I remember the nights I lay awake, my heart beating too fast, while my hands searched for the truth. I didn't know what I was doing, I just felt my body asking for it. And I didn't want to betray it in the dark, with the door locked. I was learning what it meant to be a woman without anyone telling me. First I felt guilt. Then, only pleasure. Over time, pleasure became my silent refrain, a form of freedom, an escape from rules and fears. I knew I wasn't allowed to desire. But desire doesn't ask for permission, it comes. And in my case, it stays. Adolescence was a prison with colored walls. While my peers were discovering love with small steps, with clumsy emotions, I was already living in complex fantasies. I imagined touches, scenarios, gestures that I had never seen, but felt so real on my skin. I was attracted by every detail. A tanned hand, an elegant ankle, a low voice. I imagined what it would be like to be trapped in a corner by the wall, stared at intensely, touched as if I had never been touched before. And all this, without even kissing a boy. I learned my body early. I explored it carefully, with fear, then with boldness. I knew my every twitch, every sensitive area, every way it could say yes without words. But the outside world didn't want to hear about it, so I learned to be two women, one for the world, with decent dresses and a restrained smile, and another for myself, with fantasies that weren't ashamed, with desires that burned me in silence. I started my sex life with huge expectations. I thought that finally my hunger would get what it was looking for. I thought that in the arms of a man I would find that fulfillment that I had been dreaming of for years. But reality disappointed me. He rushed. He wanted me, yes, but he wanted me selfishly. It was about him, not about us. He looked at me with desire, but not with understanding. And after it was all over, he left me with my eyes wide open, looking at the ceiling and wondering, is that it? I realized then that my hunger was not just physical. It was also emotional. I want to be desired, but I also want to be understood. I want to be taken, but also looked at. I want to be devoured, but also embraced with love. I have become a woman who searches. I search in touches, in words, in looks. I search in sex, but also in emotion. Some have called me a nymphomaniac. Maybe they are right. But if feeling intensely is a disease, then I don't want to heal. Why hunger is real. It doesn't stop after an orgasm. Sometimes, then it just begins. It's not about the number of men. It's not about conquest. It's about fusion. About that touch that says, I see you, I feel you, I want you. Just as you are. I hid my body for years. I tied it up in tight bras, in loose blouses, in silent steps. But my fantasies have never been silent. I carried them in my bag, in books, on walks apparently banal, in showers, in smiles. I imagined unknown hands lifting my dress. I imagined mouths slowly descending my spine. I imagined moans in forbidden places. And the longer I remained silent, the more vivid they were. My body is a map of desire, a map that many wanted to conquer, but few knew how to read it. Some got lost in me. Others used me. Few stayed. And even fewer understood. But I understood one thing. This hunger is not shame. It is life. It is the cry of my blood. It is the beating of my heart when a foreign hand touches my ankle. It is my rapid breathing when someone whispers something forbidden to me. It is that heat that starts from my belly and rises to my throat. Why hunger is not vulgar. It is poetic. It is true. And I don't want it anymore. I hide. Because I am a woman. And the woman in me is no longer silent. She wants to be touched, loved, desired. She wants to be seen not as a problem, but as a promise. This is my first confession. About the hunger that raised me. About the desire that shaped me. About my body, which no longer hides.